For the better part of recent history, information has been the major commodity of education. There was simply so much raw information that was necessary to pass on to our younger generations for their survival that it began dominating education. Teachers had to deal in this currency, in the currency of information. But now, with the rise of artificial intelligence, all the information in the world is at the fingertips of students. It's one command away. Teachers don't have to deal in the currency of information anymore. Now they can deal in the currencies of knowledge, the currency of wisdom, the currency of teaching students what to do with the information they have now attained, which are all going to prepare us for a better future with AI. To discuss more about teacher-student relationship in the age of AI, we have a panel discussion.
We would like to invite Ms. Amrita Burman as the moderator for this panel discussion. Ms. Burman is an experienced deputy director with a demonstrated history of working in the education management industry. She is skilled in educational consulting, instructional design, team building, leadership, and soft skills. Ma'am has graduated from Modern High School, Kolkata, and has been associated with the Sunbeam group of educational institutions for more than 3 decades now.
Next, we would like to invite our first panelist, Ms. Aditi Misra. Ms. Aditi is a career educator since 35 years. She is an alumnus of the DPS R.K. Puram and Lady Shri Ram College. She's worked at several DPSs, R.K. Puram, Vasant Kunj, Dubai, and now heads DPS Gurgaon since 2001. She's received the Teachers Award from CBSE and been a master trainer for CBSE. She continues to train educators to the Center of Excellence of CBSE.
Next, we would like to invite our second panelist, Mr. Kunal Bhadoo. Mr. Kunal is a director at Kunskapsskolan India Schools, is a senior professional skilled in management consulting, business strategy, and business development. He is building a school focusing on personalized education, individualized goals, and creating students who take responsibility and ownership for their learning.
Moving forth, for our third panelist, we would like to invite Mr. Salil Singh. Mr. Singh is a debate coach, boasting over 600 schools from 6 countries. He is running India's largest school debate platform, Behes, which is 45 cities strong. He also takes an interest in stand-up comedy.
And finally, for our fourth panelist, we have Mr. Vinesh Menon. Mr. Vinesh established K-12 schools from scratch in Tier 3 and 4 cities. He has also been a jury member for Business World's 40 Under 40 initiatives in year 2017 and year 2018, and contributed to the search for 40 leading upcoming entrepreneurs under the age of 40.
Over to you, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. Good evening to everyone. And I think we've been having a lot of discussion around AI, and obviously it's been the topic we had to. But there's been a mixed kind of bag on AI. We've been speaking about some things very positive. We've been speaking about, the fear. So let me start with this fear part, because I think most of the time there's been more talk about fear around AI. So let me begin by talking to you about 3 terror-inducing, not fear, terror-inducing late 19th century innovations: electricity, automobile, and the elevator. So if you just think about it, they're just a part of your life. But let me tell you, when they were really, innovated, there was an invention of this. These 3 were not only feared, they were boycotted, they were protested against, they were regulated, but finally, each of them was adopted and mankind adapted to it. It's a part of our lives. So I think the biggest issue with most of us is this fear to anything that's new, any new innovation. And I think AI is pretty much the same. This is my personal opinion. And I don't know, basically what we'll be discussing today is, are we really infatuated with AI, or is it deep love? I think as of now, it's infatuation. Because it's only in a state of infatuation of any relationship, you fear, you doubt, and there's no commitment at all. So let's see if you're going to be moving from infatuation to deep love, and then whether all my panelists can give us some tips from moving from infatuation to deep love towards AI. So my first question is to each one of them, all right? So we know that the role of the teacher has changed. So I'm not going to be talking about that. It is now, in fact, the age of learnification. It's learnification because the teacher is not an expert anymore, all right, but a facilitator. So do you all genuinely see any change in the relationship between the teacher and the student? Or has it just become a fad for all of us to sit down and talk about there is a change in the teacher-student relationship? So is it there, or you think it's just a fad? Let's start with you, Vinesh, from that end, if it's okay.
Kamaganisa, good afternoon, good evening, rather. Interesting question, and I think the simple answer is, I think it's a mixture of yes and no. I think there has been a change for sure, but I think the bond between a teacher and a student, which has always existed, I don't think that will ever change. To me, a few things can be described as this evolution that has happened over years. I think from a guru-sishya relationship, it has become a bit of a mentor-mentee relationship. That's one observation I have. I think the children of the past feared their teachers, and I think from there it's now, I think, gone into a relationship of fear to friend. And I think a bond which is built less on fear, I think, has started to evolve. I think the teachers of the past probably commanded respect, or rather demanded respect, and now they've started to command respect. And I think somewhere the children of today have evolved so much. I think the brain has evolved, their understanding has evolved. I mean, look at the two kids who are anchoring today. So to be with children like them, I think the teacher has to keep pace. And I think the children of today somewhere know a little more than the children of yesteryears. And hence, if the teacher keeps pace and keeps pace with the changing trends that the children are going through, I think these are the areas of change that are happening. The relationship remains, but this evolution is certainly, I think, happening.
Thanks, Vinesh. So I see it more of a positive change when you spoke about a mentor-mentee, and the most important thing, the fear is not there, and it's slowly going. I pretty much agree with you, and I think that's a great change. Aditi, ma'am.
Thanks, Amrita. I love the distinguishment you did between infatuation and love. I think for children, it's pretty much love. They are enjoying this new space. But as teachers, we see it as disruption. And I've always believed that disruption brings a great deal of innovation and construction as well. So in a classroom, let the respect flow both ways. I think as a teacher, I respect that my children definitely know more about technology and AI. And I need to learn from them and then do what we can do best inside that space as co-learners.
Okay, great, great. So respect is an important part of it, and we will be discussing that further. Yes, what about you, Kunalji? What do you think?
So I think, I've been hearing distinguished speakers since the morning, and we're talking about AI. I'd just like to draw a parallel to something that we did about 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, as a school, we pioneered, perhaps the country's first learning portal, which was a first of its kind resource, a student-facing resource where the entire curriculum of the CBSE was taken and put on a cloud, made interactive, put in themes and everything. So if we look at what traditional, the textbooks and everything was, this was something very, very path-breaking. So did that finish the role of a teacher? No. But the role of the teacher definitely changed. The role of the teacher became more a facilitator. We put that information out there for the student where they could lock in with their user ID password. And the entire information, right from grade 1 to grade 12, was available, accessible to them. So the teacher's role becomes more of a facilitator, how to gauge or how to maneuver their way around. Also, as a school, that kind of itself with personalized learning.
So I just want to, sorry. So we spoke about a teacher being a facilitator. I said that's a given. Do you think the teacher-student relationship has actually changed?
It has. As I said, that with our schools, we follow a personalized learning program where the teachers are spending a lot one-on-one time with students every week. So as I said, here the role of a teacher has become more of a facilitator and a counselor. The information is out there at their fingertips, but the teacher is hand-holding them into kind of using it correctly.
Right, great. So then there is that personal touch that's coming in. There's a hand-holding, and then, of course, you spoke about counseling. I think you mentioned more as a counselor. So there's a lot of positive things. So I'm going to be saying something at the end of what we are really talking about. Anything you want to add?
Just something more to add. One of my school teachers, Mr. Chitram, who's here, he was my computer teacher at Mayo College. And definitely what I see is that, from the very guru relationship which existed at the time, today I see students kind of, the teacher more as a friend. So that's the stark difference that I see in our schools, in our classrooms.
Okay, great. So what about you, Salil?
Yeah. So the thing that has changed is that all students have social media. They all follow people like Tanmay Bhatt and they watch vlogs. So they're very interested in knowing the personal journey of a teacher. And I think that has changed a lot. In schools all over the country, the most popular teachers, the most loved teachers are the ones who can go to a kid and say, like a 14-year-old kid having their first crush or something like that. And they can tell them what their learnings from life are. So I think it's not really friend. It's more like look deeper into my life and me as a human being, and that has changed. Yeah.
Okay. So you're talking about a teacher whom anybody can go and speak about their first crush and their first love. That means I don't fear the teacher. And why in particular? It's a very simple question, but it's just to set the context. After all, we are talking about this relationship between a teacher and a student in the age of AI. So I really wonder whether things have changed or we are exaggerating them. So let's delve a little deeper into this. So my next question is to you, Vinesh. One view, and it's a very, very popular view, let me tell you, is that AI has the potential to actually enhance teacher-student relationship. Teachers, because they can personalize learning experiences for their students, and students may feel more invested, more engaged, because there's a more immersive experience in their education. And they may also develop, therefore, closer bonds with their teachers, because the teachers are giving them that personalized experience. So do you think, Vinesh, is it true that AI is not really the villain? And if you wish, you can bring in some government school perspective, because since you wanted to speak a little bit about it, yeah.
Okay, so the group that I represent, we deal with both the private schools and the government schools, as we just mentioned. And between them, I think we've got enough number of students on both sides of the spectrum to understand the experiences that we have faced on the ground. And I can definitely tell you, AI is not a villain. It can't be a villain. I mean, look, any feature that's going to enhance knowledge cannot be a villain, right? A teacher who's most sought after is the one that keeps the attention of the children and makes learning interesting. And if AI is going to help the teacher do that, it can't be a villain. And there are enough examples for that. I mean, if you go to the private schools that we run, I mean, these are classical private K-12 schools. You have the interactive board, which has certainly made learning more interesting inside the classroom. You've got, we can now have holograms got into the classroom and make the whole, you can have the planetary system really go around you and make it exciting and interesting. Government schools, we do a lot of work with Anganwadis. And within the Anganwadis, basic mini computer and a screen and digital imagery of a monkey jumping around, or the camera going through the neck of a giraffe to introduce them to animals. The kids love it, right? So AI cannot be a villain. Now, how can AI become a villain? If you have a situation in a classroom where there is a robot who becomes a teacher and no teacher alongside, or a voice platform with all the gadgets and gizmos teaching you, I think that's an example of AI becoming a villain, because three important areas are missing there. I think one, you miss the empathy. You miss the contextualization of education. You miss the quick thinking on the feet. I mean, I know of a family whose child is physically a bit challenged, very bright kid, but it's got muscle dystrophy and, can't really do the things that the other children can do in sports. But very, very bright. And in the classroom, a situation came up where the teacher suddenly decided to use this child as an example to tell the other children how there is this child doing something despite his odds, and made the child feel very good and very special. Now, that is not part of the curriculum. It just came on the spot. And you can't have an AI do that. It has to be that intuition that someone spoke about in the earlier sessions. I've seen an example of a video in which a professor is giving a lecture on law and justice. And I think it came on social media. And I saw the professor coming into the class, looking at one of the students and saying, what's your name? Why don't you just get out of the class straight away? And the student was completely flummoxed, but the professor asked her to get out. And then the rest of the students just kept quiet, and the professor asked them, what did I just do? Do you guys feel that I did justice? And the other children said, no. Then they said, why don't you protest? And he was trying to teach them a live example of how, if you do not protect your justice, you can be the victim of a similar injustice in future. Now, 1,000 hours of lecture can't do this, right? And therefore, again, it's not AI driven. It's the brain that goes inside this. In government schools, and this is very interesting, we had an imagery of knowing your neighborhood, knowing your roads, driving on the right side of the right side of the road, as in the correct side of the road. And it was a brilliant imagery which was shown to the kids. Now, one of the kids said, "Mera ghar aisa dikhta hi nahi hai. My neighborhood is not like this. And my father drives on the wrong side on a cycle with me on the..." Now, how do you deal with this? You need to have a quick thinking response to this. You just can't. The AI will go crazy if a kid asks this kind of a question. So I think the answer is AI is not a villain if used in the right way. And I think the famous words that AI has to be an enabler and a tool which the teacher can use to then drive home the point that the teacher is trying to make.
Great. So I think it's all about the way we really use AI. And I remember that WhatsApp, because it's been taking the rounds and it's been talking about justice. And I think it's great because ultimately, even if there's AI in the class, it's that human teacher that tells you that, look, you need to be fighting for your own rights. No AI is going to be able to do that.
AI is not going to come and tell the student to get out of the class. It's never programmed to do that, right?
Absolutely. So. Great. Well said. So, Aditi ma'am, over to you. The teachers are not keeping themselves updated and running away from the right use of technology. And I think most of us in our schools do suffer from that. But if used in the right way, it can actually boost the teacher's authority as they demonstrate their own ability to innovate and stay current with technological trends. Teachers should make it clear that AI is not the source of all wisdom or expertise, but a tool that helps apply and only express that wisdom. AI may be artificially intelligent, but is heartless and emotionless, and doesn't understand the context and make any value judgments at all the way humans do. So do you think, ma'am, are we as teachers not approaching technology the right way and letting it become larger than life and making our own selves irrelevant and blaming it again on technology? What do you have to say?
Thank you, Amrita. I think I'll admit that as traditional schools, many of us feared technology. I use it in the past sense. But come 2020, and all of us were forced to accept technology. Am I right in that? Can I have a show of hands? Everybody adopted technology, or your schools closed down and your teacher was jobless. It's the same now. Any teacher, any co-learner, if he or she is unable to embrace technology and any intelligence, it's almost a doom time for them. They will make themselves irrelevant. So I go back to what I said earlier, that I think classrooms have to be spaces of co-learning. It has to happen. Because let us accept, when I enter a classroom, I have to accept that the knowledge, the content is with them. Perhaps a little bit more than I have, despite my 40 years of experience. Now, how will I, as a teacher, help them to adapt that knowledge? How will I tell them to sift the truth from the untruths? How will I tell them what is applicable in today's day? How is it going to help them? And it brings me to the question which people keep asking, and I get a little annoyed because there's this video also that keeps coming, schools are irrelevant, schools don't matter, we did nothing in school. Come on, anybody who's saying this is standing there, the way he learned to stand and the way he learned to speak was in a school. Let's admit that. As teachers, we've all done that. When you had debates, when you had assemblies, you were teaching your children, this is how you will stand, this is how you will speak. You've seen these two wonderful boys from Sunbeam school. How wonderfully they have conducted the entire program today. How would maybe Amrita feel if they got up and said, school taught me nothing? You know, I think it's just become fashionable, and let's get down to the truth. I think we are all in it together. If we want to create a healthy, robust ecosystem, education is the way. And I think teachers and students have to come together. And I think, you know, the question of authority does not come in then. Because you're co-sharing a space. The classroom is ours. We need to learn something. And wahi baat, it came in one of the movies, padhai mein maza aana chahiye. You know, so as a school, what some of us are doing as part of our sahodais also, we've seen that the day you have a sports day, you have 100% attendance. Yes? Children's day, 100% attendance. Teachers Day, 110% attendance. My ex-students also come. कि आज मैम नाचेंगी, गाएंगी, हम देखने जा रहे हैं. So can't we do something fun every day? So the timetable is made in such a way that you have one terrifying lesson, then you have a PE. Then you have a less terrifying lesson, then you have a break. Then you have some meditation, you have some fun and games, music, dance, art, theatre, all comes in. And all of it is enhanced by AI, not reduced in any way. I hope I make my point clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was great.
This is like Colonel Shaker taking on the session after lunch. Something like that.
We've been friends for a while.
So I really loved it when you said that we are co-learners. They're all spaces that we all learn together. And I think these skills can only be taught by a teacher. And even in the age of AI, that's something we still have to do. I completely agree with you. So over to you now, Kunalji, your question. Teaching students the use of technology is the way forward, as we want our students to be ready for college and career. So obviously we have to teach them technology. We can't do without it. These students are going to be dealing with technology in everyday life moving forward. So we need to know the ethical uses of this technology and encourage the students to use it. So our question is not about the ethics though. It's about we have to teach them. So rather than avoiding it, should we actually start using technology more? Because the more we use technology which is beneficial to a child and for his college and career, that student and teacher relationship would be better because he's going to respect you for what you've done to that child in his school years.
Thank you for putting this question to me. And again, I can say that, you know, we've all been talking a lot about the future, but you've given me a question where I can actually look at the past. I can just go back to our experience of the last decade, where 10 years ago, when we launched Kunskapsskolan schools in India. So Kunskapsskolan, for most of you who don't know, Kunskapsskolan is a Swedish chain of schools, the largest private school operators in India, in Sweden, and we decided to collaborate and start those schools here in India. And as I said, that, you know, the personalized learning program that we have, one of the tools, essential tools in that personalized learning program is the learning portal I told you about, which is the entire curriculum on a cloud. Now, to access that cloud, you need a digital device. So in our schools, 10 years ago, children from grade 3 onwards had their own device to access that learning portal, which was a big kind of, you know, we were looked upon that, you know, these schools are kind of, you know, exposing children to technology too soon and, you know, whatnot and all that. But what we have seen in these last 10 years is that when you give the children, I mean, you know, here we're saying AI is imminent. Again, you know, technology in schools was imminent, and we accepted that. And to give them devices that early, help them kind of, you know, maneuver or kind of, you know, not be one of those things that you hide away from children and, you know, increases their curiosity and then they go about kind of, you know, messing around with it, I mean, do all sorts of things with it. So we gave them devices and we obviously made sure that the ethical considerations, also in terms of like, you know, safe usage, all that was embedded in their learning. That, I mean, this is something that is an enabler, but you know how to, you should know how to use it. The benefit, obviously, of that was that, when COVID struck, we were already kind of, using all your Zooms and Google Classrooms and everything, because in Gurgaon, I mean, Aditi is here. I mean, we've been used to all sorts of funny things now that, holidays because the pollution level is too high, holidays because there's too much of rainfall that's happened. Now we had holidays because of riots that kind of, happened. So we had already kind of, moved to a platform which was an exception, which became a norm during COVID. So as I, just answering back, I think technology, to adopt it in schools, we should not fear. Children are smart. If we look at AI, I would take the example of, say, villages where if you, again, look at, say, 30 years ago, you had people in the, women kind of use manual this thing to wash clothes, and then, the advent of the washing machine. And then someone kind of, in the villages...
Can I just interrupt and rephrase my question to you? The rephrasing is, you obviously have seen so many children out of the school and alumni, right? So I want you to let me know that because you use so much of technology, I mean, to have things in cloud and have children having devices in the classroom, did any alumni ever come back and say, thank you so much. It's because of the technology you taught in the classroom that I am where I am. I have the best placement. So did anybody come back and say, because that is the relationship part?
I think as I said, the technology has been an enabler. Exposing them to technology in the right way at such a stage has obviously kind of helped them to be slightly ahead of their peers in terms of the tools and resources that they can kind of able to use. And yes, it's obviously helped them. I mean, we've had about 4 batches pass out from grade 12 who've got into really good universities. And yes, so that's...
They've been happy and said a thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. So coming to you now, Salil. Since you've been with Behes and you've been doing a lot of communication with children, so this question is specifically to you. We as teachers don't communicate enough and actually ask the right questions to our students, which help in building good relations. And therefore, the temptation to a device, because I have no connect with my teacher, so let me move to a device. The best way to combat current technological temptations is to have good relations and communications with the students. So do you think better communications will also build better connections and relationships, and therefore no going back to your device?
Sure. A short answer to that would be yes and no. Because the teacher does a different job and the device does a different job. When I was in 3rd grade, my Hindi teacher told me that there are 3 lings in grammar. There's pulling, striling, and napunsakling. And this was taught in no other school in India. So I grew up with this information, and I used to go around and tell people that, there are 3 lings, not just 2, like they're teaching you in CBSE. And I was made fun of till I was 18 years old. And then I met a friend who was actually an MA in Hindi, and they told me, no, that is true, that does happen. So basically, the change now is that, obviously we've already discussed it, all the information is on the big change. So that's to answer the question, but very quickly, something I want to share with everyone. When the steam engine was invented in 1764, there was a group of people in England called the Luddites. They were also called the plug rioters. क्योंकि जो भी स्टीम इंजन होती थी ना, वो लोग जाके हर स्टीम इंजन का प्लग निकाल देते थे, क्योंकि उन्हें लगता था कि हमारी नौकरियां चली जाएंगी. Today, the railways is the largest employer in India. I came here on the Ajmer Shatabdi. It took me 4 hours. I checked my phone for notifications. I had samosa and I made it here. As ma'am started the discussion with, fear is not something that we need to roll with. Rather, let's take this as an opportunity to become more human. And to help you become more human, there are pamphlets on each of your desks saying Behes Debate for All. You can call us to your schools, and we'll help you make your students more human also. Thank you.
So that means if you don't know how to communicate and you fear AI, he's the answer. Call him to the school, he'll teach you how to communicate more with your students. And so I think that was great because I think in the age of AI, it's very convenient. Let's not only talk about the the student-teacher relationship. It begins from our homes, where a mother also has no time to communicate and hands this over to a child. So it begins much earlier than our schools, and then most of the parents blame it on us. So now, my last question, which of course again is to each one of y'all, right? After all the discussions you've had since morning and our discussions now, when you go back to your school, I think it's established, it's not only through this discussion, but otherwise, that it's very important in this age of AI to have a good teacher-student relationship. So what are you going to go back to your school and tell your teachers to do in relation to technology? Because it's a given, it's going to stay. The child is going to challenge you. So what is the teacher going to be asked to do to enhance human relations, and assuming that, of course, AI is here to stay? So what are you going to tell them? And dekho, ye karo, isse tumhara teacher-student relationship tumhare better honge. Starting from you, Vinesh, would you like to take that first?
I wish I hadn't. But I think, if I were to jog my memory, I found biology very interesting, simply because I could dissect the very frog that I could see in my gardens, and it's a live animal that you see the frog, and then you're also seeing it. So it relates, it's contextualized, and you kind of. But I found physics very boring. I hated physics, and I found chemistry very intimidating. This whole balancing of equations and atom and molecule, and so I think I would go back to these two teachers, the physics teacher and the chemistry teacher, and hopefully figure out a way to make those subjects more interesting. I mean, can physics, for example, do something virtual for me to have something blown up on my face, or a chemical equation go blown up on my face so that I'll never repeat that mistake? Or how do you, this whole atom and molecule balancing, could it have been done more interestingly instead of rote learning that I did, right? And physics, the whole tripod and the pendulum, and I don't even, these were very, very, I used to fear getting into that room. So I think I would go to these teachers and tell them, can you do something to make these subjects interesting? So that is what I would.
Absolutely.
And there's this debate about, not debate, this line which I heard, is the teacher a sage on the stage or a guide on the side, right? This is something that you keep hearing. I think it's important for us to realize that the teacher is a sage on the stage who can guide with pride. And I think as long as you're able to get that enabled with some kind of platforms like this. And that brings me to a very, even this whole theme of AI that we did today. And I think compliments to Ravi and ScooNews for bringing this as the theme today. But why are we discussing this topic so much today? Is it because we have all understood AI inside out to be able to discuss this? Or is it because the media has created so much in the last few months and weeks that has cost us this whole fear about AI and this whole job loss? And is that why this topic has come up? We don't know that. I think it's important to delve into some of these things. And I can't but end my, I'm reminded of the question that you asked, Kunal, about alumni coming out and wondering whether they like a teacher or do they remember the technology. Look at the past. Every alumni says thanks to the teacher. I don't think anyone has said thank you technology.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think that is something which we need, even today. I think they remember the human being behind it and not the tech. So I think that's the way I would see it.
Great. Aditi ma'am.
Same question. So my advice teachers would be, don't fear it, don't challenge it, don't hide from it, don't make it a taboo. Their biggest fear right now, I'm telling you, is ChatGPT. I said, use it. You also use it. Let them also use it. Just question it. And just to prove a point, and I'm admitting something out in the open, I wrote one of my messages through ChatGPT. I had to bring it to my context. I had to change almost 65% of it, but the essence was right there. So I said, now you question me about it, I'll be able to answer because I've conceptualized it, I've contextualized it, so you let the child use ChatGPT, not a big deal. Learning can happen from anywhere, from television, from movies, from ChatGPT, from a book, from a friend, from a class, from a frog, from anywhere. So let's embrace learning and let's use new ways of getting learning into the classroom.
Great. That's great advice. And it's like getting inspired from GPT. Over to you, Kunal.
Yeah, so I mean, already with ChatGPT and these AI tools, I mean, we are, as I said, that not um, advocating. It's kind of that in the sense that, you say that, okay, let's just use it extensively. But, teachers are using it, students are using it. And as I said, that it's okay. But, just to kind of tell them about the pitfalls of, what these things can have. Don't go on everything that it's saying is gospel truth. You need to kind of, verify that. I think more importantly, I'll just slightly just add to this context. I mean, there was this talk about whether schools will be relevant and everything with AI. I mean, for me, from where I see it, I think schools, this is the time that schools will all the more be relevant. Because I think where we are headed to, and if you look at the Western world also where generally it's heading to, I mean, and picking a leaf also from the professor from IIT who said about, just teaching them what's relevant to them. So the thing is, schools are essentially being looked at grounds where you are enabling children with all the relevant skills. And then if you are looking at, say, markets or economies such as the UK, where after school, it's just kind of, going and doing internships in companies or careers of your choice, where those companies are building their own specialized programs. So actually, it's not our schools, it's the higher education places that need to kind of, really think about their existential potential from, few years from now. But for us, as I said, always the challenge is that if I look at 6-7 years ago, you had, again, the World Economic Forum was talking about 3D printing and all these sort of things. I mean, CBSE or anyone did not have a curriculum for these things. But, our students were very eager. They said, we want to learn about this, everything. So we, got 3D printers. We kind of, built our own curriculum, gave them exposure to this. Again, that's the thing with AI. I mean, we are very keen that, we are able to educate our students.
So I agree,
with this.
you said that schools are not going to get irrelevant, but it's mainly the higher education. Gyan to the teacher. Kya gyan denge?
Gyan to the teacher is, as I said, that, their role becomes more important than ever it has been. They have to kind of, step in to that role of that professor in a higher education institution also, because everything is going to get compressed in the school.
Great. Salil.
I don't have a school to go back to, but I have friends who are teachers, a lot of them, in fact, all over the country. And to them, I say exactly the same thing. Please be authentic. Please be yourself. Your job didn't get harder. It just got easier. So relax, be yourself, create memories. These two students, by the way, who were comparing this entire event, I trained them for a year and I'm very proud to see them and they're amazing. I'm not saying it's because of me. They are amazing, okay? So the joke that he made after Russell gave his presentation about, sir, so when are you taking me to Disneyland? We will remember at the end of this conference the British dysentery joke. We will remember the joke that he made about wanting to go to Disneyland and some other things. But for me, at least, these are the highlights of the last 2 days. So basically, create more memories, be yourself, have fun with the students, and be more real, because then they will also be real. Just one thing, in India, India has the highest rate of undiagnosed ADHD in the world. Okay? These are the people who become addicts. And they are already addicts because they've been receiving notifications on their phone since they were 11 years old. 63 people liked your photo. Oh, wow, my extended family doesn't like me, but look, 63 people like me. And so this generation of addicts, all addicts need is love, compassion, and somebody to talk to. And if teachers can become those people, then we'll be doing something right by the people who will become the leaders of tomorrow. Thank you.
Great. So I'm reminded of, this is all about the WhatsApps. I was reminded about a WhatsApp. Maybe all of you all also got it, because once something starts, it goes viral, where somebody had written, I usually used to, when I was young, there used to be a time I used to write something in my diary and hope nobody reads it. Today, I put up everything on the Facebook or on social media and get scared, why haven't I got my likes? So that's where the world has gone. There's been so much of change. Right, so we are pretty much on time, and I just wanted to end by, first of all, thanking my panelists. They were great, they were excellent. And personally, I feel AI is very neutral. In fact, technology is very neutral. There's nothing right or wrong about it. It all depends on us as educators and teachers. How do we manage to integrate technology into whatever we do so that the human connect is there and the relationships are built and human isolation doesn't happen, especially for the children and the students that we have in our classroom. So having a very adversarial view on AI is probably not a very good idea. Let me end with this quote of Chanakya, who says, शिक्षक कभी साधारण नहीं होता, उसके गोद में प्रलय और निर्माण दोनों खेलते हैं. So let's make our choices very widely. Do we want to nurture human relationships or we want to destroy them in the age of AI? It's all in our hands. Thank you, and Jai Hind is what I was going to say. Thank you. Thanks. So do you want us to take a question from the audience, Ravi? We have 4 minutes. Okay, right. All right. Thanks, Aditi, for reminding me. So questions. Yes, Anand.
Thank you. The point that we made about the journey, about how the teachers were, how they are, and how they would be, right? And we clearly note that it was really a hand-me-down earlier, now it's become a mentor relationship. I think what seems to be happening is that it's also going towards a seeking together. Because with the kind of technology that's there, or the content that's going to be there, it's the seeking and the experience of seeking together, that's what they're going to really connect with. Which is why, to your question, I just wanted to just add a point and then see comments from here, is when we say that I introduce technology, if you introduce the technology that is to your agenda, it's very different than when students or children today are already way ahead of you in technology, right? It's largely that we work with them. And examples of that, in case someone wants to try it out with their students, there are a couple of games. There's one thing called Yellow. There's another game called Kami. And there's another game called Ken Ken. These are games on, of course, the children don't have it, but when they have it on your phone and they play, there's so much that they unlock and they come back to you. So this is also technology. And they start teaching you a lot more. So I think that openness is very important. And not just saying that, okay, I have a portal or I have your email IDs which you log into. What is it that we learn from them and how do we seek together? That seems to be a very key part in the teacher-student relationship in the age of AI. Just love to hear some comments from the panelists on that.
What was the question? I heard you say lots of things.
Sorry. The question was, do you see that happening? Do you see that you'd actually be inviting technology use and experience from the children?
100%, they know more than us.
Exactly, and the teachers parsing that and helping them with the questions that they wouldn't have asked of that technology.
Like I said, co-creating of a space inside the classroom where everybody is a co-learner.
Precise.
And definitely technology is more that side than with the teacher.